Imagine a film so committed to reality that the director hires actual aerospace engineers to design the toilets. A film that creates a set so dangerous it could have killed its actors, and features a villain who creates the template for artificial intelligence terror for the next 50 years by singing a children's song.
Give me your answer.
In 1968, audiences didn't just watch a movie, they walked into a monolith that changed the definition of cinema. Today, we aren't just reviewing 2001: A Space Odyssey, we are dismantling the obsession that built it. Welcome back to Golden Flicker. 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in April 1968, is more than a sci-fi flick. It's a panoramic view of humanity's past and future, from the dawn of man in the African veldt to a psychedelic journey beyond the infinite. It's a story of evolution, tools, and the terrifying silence of the void. Let me ask you, do you remember the first time you encountered the monolith? Was it on a late-night TV broadcast that confused you? Or perhaps a theatrical re-release that left you speechless? Tell me your first memory of this film in the comments below. I read every single one. 1960s space race and cheap sci-fi. To understand why 2001 mattered, you need to picture the mid-1960s. The space race was heating up. The Apollo program promised to put humans on the moon. Cold War tensions had everyone worried about nuclear annihilation, but also weirdly optimistic about technology saving us. But if you went to the movies to see sci-fi, you got schlocky monster movies and rocket serials. Fun, sure, but hardly serious cinema. Stanley Kubrick, fresh off Dr. Strangelove, wanted to change that. He teamed up with science fiction legend Arthur C. Clarke with one specific mission: to make what he called the proverbial good science fiction movie. Something scientifically rigorous, philosophically ambitious, a film that would treat the genre like it deserved respect. And boy, did they deliver. From short story to cinematic symphony. The seed of 2001 came from Clarke's 1948 short story, The Sentinel. In it, astronauts discover an alien artifact on the moon that starts broadcasting a signal when humans uncover it, basically an alarm saying, "Hey, they've reached space." But here's where it gets interesting. Kubrick and Clarke didn't just adapt the story, they wrote the screenplay and the novel simultaneously, in parallel. Clarke would work on chapters while Kubrick refined the script. This explains why the novel answers questions the film deliberately leaves mysterious. The book tells you what the monolith is and what happens to Bowman. The movie? It just shows you strange, beautiful images and lets you figure it out. This dual development meant the film could stay enigmatic, while fans could dive deeper into the book if they wanted explanations. Brilliant strategy. Kubrick's scientific accuracy. Kubrick didn't just want a sci-fi movie, he wanted a documentary from the future. He consulted actual aerospace companies. He used real orbital mechanics for the spacecraft movements. He even obsessed over how toilets and pens would work in zero gravity. And the effects budget? Astronomical for 1968. But here's the kicker. Every single special effects shot was printed directly onto the original camera negative. This was almost unheard of at the time because one mistake meant ruining the entire negative. But it kept the images incredibly sharp and clean. No generational loss, no muddy composites. The result? Effects that still hold up today, over 50 years later. Take the Dawn of Man sequence with the apes. Instead of primitive blue screen, Kubrick used front projection. Massive, ultra-detailed photographs of African landscapes were projected onto a special reflective screen behind the actors in ape suits. The detail was so sharp that early audiences genuinely thought Kubrick had somehow trained real apes. In fact, the realism of this technique is so convincing that it birthed one of pop culture's most enduring myths, that Kubrick used this exact technology to fake the Apollo moon landing. While that's a conspiracy theory, the fact that the special effects were good enough to fool the world speaks volumes. The rotating set that cost a fortune. Now, let's talk about one of the most iconic sets in cinema history, the Discovery spaceship's rotating centrifuge. To create artificial gravity, Kubrick's team built a gigantic hamster wheel, a 30-ton rotating set manufactured by an actual aircraft company. It reportedly cost around $750,000 in 1960s money. The whole thing spun like a Ferris wheel while actors and cameras stayed inside. Remember the jogging scene where astronaut Gary Lockwood runs upside down along the walls and ceiling? He's actually running in place on the bottom while the entire set rotates around him. The camera, bolted to the floor of the centrifuge, spins with it, so we see him defying gravity. It's a practical effect that creates a sense of disorientation and futuristic realism that CGI still struggles to match. You can feel the weight and engineering of the ship because it was actually built. Then there's the film's most famous sequence, the Stargate, that 10-minute kaleidoscope of light and color that became a must-see for the counterculture crowd. This wasn't CGI, this was 1968. The technique was called Slit-Scan photography. Here's how it worked. The team set up illuminated artwork and slowly moved a camera past it with the shutter held open. The long exposure created those streaking, hypnotic tunnels of light and color. The effect took months to create, frame by painstaking frame, but it gave audiences something they'd never seen before, an attempt to visualize traversing space-time itself, a journey beyond human comprehension. It's still trippy, still mesmerizing, and completely analog. From pyramid to perfect slab, let's talk about the film's most iconic image, the monolith. Originally, the alien artifact was designed as a tall, transparent pyramid made of plexiglass. Sounds cool, right? Problem: manufacturing a large, flawless pyramid that looked good on camera was a nightmare. Seams showed, reflections revealed the crew. It just didn't work. So Kubrick pivoted to the now legendary black slab, a tall, smooth, opaque rectangle. Simple, mysterious, symbolic. Easy to film without revealing technical flaws. That simplicity became its power. The monolith could represent anything: alien intelligence, a cosmic catalyst, a mirror for humanity's fears and aspirations. Its blankness invited interpretation. HAL 9000. And now we arrive at the golden flicker moment of the film, the character that defines the story. HAL 9000. Kubrick auditioned several voices for HAL, rejecting anything that sounded stereotypically robotic. He wanted something calm, measured, almost soothing. Canadian actor Douglas Rain delivered that perfectly. A voice that's polite, helpful, and just slightly wrong. But here is the detail that makes this a masterpiece. Arthur C. Clarke visited Bell Labs in 1962 and witnessed an early computer voice synthesis demo. The computer sang Daisy Bell, the first song ever performed by a computer. That moment directly inspired Hal's chilling regression as Bowman shuts him down. Hal, losing his mind, reverts to that same song. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. It's one of cinema's most emotionally devastating moments, and it's a computer dying. Hal created the template for the calm AI villain, a trope we see echoed in everything from Wall-E's Otto to Ex Machina's Ava. That measured, reasonable voice making unreasonable decisions became a sci-fi staple. Do you agree that Hal is actually the most emotional character in the movie?
Before we enter the final act of this Odyssey, I have a mission for you. If you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. It helps the algorithm find other cinema lovers like us. And let us know what classic film should we decode next.
Now, back to the void. The Unused Prologue and Kubrick's vision. Here's a fascinating footnote. Kubrick originally planned a black and white documentary prologue. Now, in the era of the roadshow, theatrical epic, This wasn't actually that unusual. Audiences were used to formal introductions. Think of Cecil B. DeMille stepping out to address the audience in The Ten Commandments, or the documentary opening of Around the World in 80 Days. Following that tradition, Kubrick wanted real scientists and industry people, including Carl Sagan, talking about extraterrestrial life to give the film scientific credibility. He shot interviews, he had the footage, then he decided to scrap the entire thing. Why? Because he realized the film should stand on its own as a purely cinematic, almost wordless experience. No hand-holding, no educational framing, just the story told visually. That decision to trust the audience with ambiguity was radical. A Zoo for Humans. Let's talk about that ending. Bowman travels through the Stargate and ends up in a bright, neoclassical hotel room that looks weirdly familiar but fundamentally wrong. The concept, unseen aliens have built a zoo enclosure for Bowman based on Earth broadcasts they've intercepted. They're trying to make him comfortable, but they don't quite understand humans, so the room is off. The furniture is period appropriate, but the proportions are strange. The light glows from beneath the floor, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. Bowman ages, dies, and is reborn as the Star Child, a glowing fetus floating in space. Is it hopeful? Disturbing? A next stage of evolution? The film never tells you. Music and the silence of space. The soundscape of 2001 is just as famous as its visuals, but it was almost completely different. Kubrick had commissioned a full original score from Hollywood legend Alex North. North wrote the music, recorded it, and attended the premiere in New York, excited to hear his work on the big screen. He sat in the audience and discovered in real time that Kubrick had scrapped his entire score. During editing, Kubrick had fallen in love with his temp track, classical pieces by Strauss and Ligeti. He decided the classical music fit the timeless nature of space better than a modern score. That ruthless choice gave us some of cinema's most iconic pairings. The Blue Danube Waltz accompanying graceful spacecraft docking, and Thus Spoke Zarathustra blasting as the sun rises. But poor Alex North was heartbroken. Equally important, Kubrick insisted on portraying space accurately. That meant silence. No whooshing engines, no explosions roaring in the vacuum. Just eerie, realistic quiet. It made space feel isolating, hostile, and real. Mixed reactions and the counterculture. When 2001 premiered, critical reaction was mixed. Some critics called it slow, confusing, pretentious. Rock Hudson reportedly walked out saying, "Will someone tell me what the hell this is about?" But then, something unexpected happened. Younger audiences, especially the counterculture crowd, adopted it as a trip movie. People returned multiple times, sometimes under the influence, just to experience the Stargate sequence. The film became a communal, almost spiritual experience. The audience saved the film and turned it from a financial question mark into a cultural touchstone. The coming of age of science fiction. 2001's impact on science fiction cannot be overstated. George Lucas saw it and decided Star Wars needed to look real. Battered spaceships with weight and grime. Ridley Scott brought its cold, beautiful realism to Alien. Christopher Nolan channeled it directly into Interstellar. However, not everyone agreed with Kubrick's sterile vision. It even provoked a response from the East. Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris, which we've explored in another video, was made specifically as an emotional counterargument to Kubrick's cold scientific approach. But 2001 proved that big-budget, philosophically ambitious sci-fi could draw massive audiences. It solidified Kubrick as the master of visual storytelling, a style he would carry into the dystopian violence of A Clockwork Orange and the psychological terror of The Shining. Check our videos on those if you haven't seen them yet. Here's the thing. 2001 doesn't feel like a 1960s movie. It feels timeless. Films like Arrival and Under the Skin owe everything to 2001's willingness to trust the audience with mystery. And every new technological era finds something new in How. In the Cold War, he represented fears of automated nuclear systems. Today, he reflects our anxieties about AI surpassing human control. The monolith, too, remains endlessly interpretable, a blank canvas for whatever questions we're asking about technology, evolution, and consciousness. 2001, A Space Odyssey, didn't just mature science fiction, it transformed cinema itself. It proved that genre films could be art, and that audiences were ready for something challenging and strange. Because Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke didn't just make a movie, they made a monolith of their own, a mysterious, beautiful artifact that changed everything that came after it. If you discovered something new today, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker so you never miss a story from the annals of cinema history. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars